Hello, everybody. You won't need the tissues for mine. It's not that sad. I'm going to move you that way. When you see this face, I don't know what you see, but I know what I see. I see a person of many, many nationalities. I will start out by telling you that I am third generation, which is Sansei in our terms. You all started with, you are the first generation here. Well, our first generation are the ones that came over from Japan. Now, this face is supposed to be Japanese, okay? Just to give you a hindsight on this. My grandmother came over, her name was Sumiko, and she was just a pistol. I just have to give you a little bit of background on me. This kind of tells you where I come from. Sumiko was this little Japanese 4'8" woman who knew no English, came from a family, just got married to my grandfather, came over here like a lot of the families that you're listening to. I give her so much credit. I don't know about you, but if I didn't know the language, didn't know the customs, didn't know what I was in for, I would say, take me home now, okay? Yeah, take me home. But she and my grandfather were here, and at the time, Asians could not own land. So they got a piece of land, they rented a piece of land from this farmer who had a real farm. They had cows, they had chickens, they had pigs, they had everything. And so one night, Grandma wakes up, my grandfather was gone, and here are these pigs. They had planted all this corn, and these pigs were eating all the corn up. And she's like, oh, she didn't know what to do. So she finally thinks, okay, I'm going to run to this farmer's house and tell him the pigs are out. So she runs like a quarter of a mile and bang, 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 bang. Mister! Bang, 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 bang. Mister! And finally, this farmer comes out and goes, what? And she goes, oh. And she didn't know how to say pig, you know? She didn't know how to say cow. So she goes, oh, mister, your bacon, run away. Believe it or not, he got it. Oh, my pigs are out. Yes. Moo. And he goes, cow too. Yes. So he goes over there, gets his cows and pigs and brings them back home. So I give it to her because would you have come up with your bacon? Wow, Grandma was good. So that, I guess it had been a rainy season, and there was a great big windmill, and it had rusted. So it was going, you know, and being a farmer, you got to wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to start your chores, right? So she's not getting any sleep at all. So she runs over to the farmer's house and, Mister! And he says, oh my God, he comes to the door and goes, what? And she goes, fan! And he goes, what? And she, no. Okay, I'll fix that in the morning. So, I mean, think about it. You think about these onomatopoeias that we come out with, and it just amazes me that she could just communicate with anybody, you know? So I look at how that kind of related to my dad. My dad was one of those guys, if you ever came down to our flower shop, he'd invite you back, have a cup of coffee, just kind of shoot the bull with you. He was one of those guys that was just easygoing. He'd have given away the farm if it weren't for my mom, right? So he was one of those guys that you could say almost anything to and it wouldn't faze him. He had a sense of humor on him that it just amazed me. He learned Spanish of all things, because Spanish is very much the pronunciation of all the words is very similar to Japanese, believe it or not. And his best friend when he was growing up was Eddie Navarro. And Eddie was one of those just kind of a rambunctious kind of guy. But, you know, he and Dad ran together, and it was really cute. They met when they were going to first grade. What had happened is that Eddie, every morning, would get, his mom would, it was a Spanish family, his mother would make the the best homemade tortillas, right? And refried beans, and he would get 2 bean burros for lunch every day. And he was like, okay, but Mom, can we have some bread? And she'd say, no, all we can afford, honey, is just tortillas. So he's like, okay. So my dad, on the other hand, they had Wonder Bread, but they had no meat, okay? No meat. He had vegetable sandwiches. Whatever they grew on the farm is what he got on his sandwich. But he had Wonder Bread. So when they went to school, one day he saw Eddie eating his bean burros, and he had this vegetable sandwich that he was so tired of. And he said, let's trade. Oh my God, a friendship was born right then. My dad just woofed those down. Those were the best things that he had. And Eddie was so proud because he got to have bread. So from that day on, I'd say almost every day, they would switch lunches. Because Eddie got his share of bread, and he was very proud to eat that sandwich. And my dad got the best beef burros in the world, right? But from that friendship, Dad learned Spanish so well that he could get lost down in Guadalupe. They would think that he was one of them. He could speak so well. And it was really funny because you would see him in a group of them, and if they would say, oh, Gino, and he'd go,
Yeah.
you know? And then they'd start talking about him, and then he'd say, oye, I know what you're saying. So then they go, whoa, George knows Spanish. So it was funny because he'd be down there too in Guadalupe, where a lot of his fellow workers were, and there were Yaqui Indians. And it was funny because Dad had that face that you weren't sure what he was, because he was so tan that you would go, okay, is he Asian? Is he Mexican? One guy thought he was Yaqui and started talking Yaqui Indian to him. And Dad's going, And then he pats him on the back, and Dad goes, I don't know what the hell he said. He was happy. And, I thought, wow, Dad, you got that face that goes anywhere, huh? And he goes, yeah, down here I do. And it was really funny because when we went to Hawaii one summer with Dad, he was so cute. He'd stand out there with his little round belly and kind of hang out looking at the beach, and a couple of tourists came up and said, wait, I know you. You're Chin, right, from Hawaii Five-0. My dad goes, yeah, can we have your autograph? Sure. So then he found a hat that said Hawaii Five-0. He wore it everywhere in Hawaii. He thought, okay, I'm a celebrity here. I like it. So it was really cute that he was able to do that. Well, in my lifetime, I became a flight attendant. And I guess this face has a lot of different faces that go along with it. Because I remember I started flying for Hughes Air West. Those of you who are really, really old remember it. It's the Banana Airlines. And I had a little yellow mini skirt with yellow go-go boots, but the go-go boots got too little because your feet kind of grow. So anyway, I was in my little jump seat across from these 2 passengers, and these 2 passengers are looking at me, and they're, and I'm thinking, what's wrong? And she goes, ask her, Harry. And Harry goes, are you Indian? And I, me? Indian? Like, how Indian? He goes, yeah. And I said, well, yeah. What are you going to do, right? I go, well, yeah. And he goes, okay, my wife thinks you're Apache and I think you're Navajo. I said, Navajo. And he says, I see, I told you. So I'm like, okay, I can be Indian now. This was a trip to Grand Canyon, so you kind of get that a little bit. But the one I really like is I was sitting going to Houston one day, and all of a sudden these 2 gentlemen are talking, and I got it again. And the one gentleman was Eastern Indian, and he looks at me and says, excuse me, madam. And I said, yes, sir. Are you Indian? I said, Indian? And he goes, no, like from the Middle East Indian. And I said, why? And he goes, you look very Indian in your face. And the other guy goes, yeah, we've been talking about that. You look real Indian. I'm part Indian. And he goes, thought so. I'm like, okay, I'm Indian. Okay, what else can I be? Well, when you do international flights, it's kind of real interesting because we have interpreters on board, but looking at me, you would think, oh, she speaks something, right? So people would get on and start speaking things to me, like in Korean, not Japanese. They never thought I was Japanese. That's why I had to tell you I am Japanese. Chinese. I mean, I would get the whole slew of things, but it was funny because 2 Japanese women were talking about me across my jump seat again, and they were talking, I think she's Chinese. This is all in Japanese, because I know just a little bit. And the other one goes, no, I think she's Korean. And I said, no, I'm Nihonjin, which in Japanese means I'm Japanese. And they went, no. Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Anyway, I'll have to tell you the last story. The last story is the one where this face, I was in Hawaii and I had gotten very brown, like very cocoa-y brown. And I got one of those really cool perms that everybody got. So you kind of look like Rosanna Dana, you know? And my nephew was really cute. He goes, Auntie, your hair's so cool. When it's wet, it's like in ringlet things. He goes, but when it dries, it grows. That day, it had grown. And I got on with 2 flight attendants from Minneapolis. I think it was Heidi and Gretchen, which kind of tells you they were blonde with blue eyes. And then there was me. So we're going through the cabin, we're doing our thing, and I'm in the back, and the one girl comes back there to the other flight attendant and myself and says, can you believe it? This guy back there's nuts. I said, he's nuts? What's wrong with him? He's told me that the black girl owes him change from a cocktail. She said, what black girl? And I kind of went, well, that could be So I have this face that I guess a lot of you see as different, but growing up the way I did in America, when I look in the mirror, what I see doesn't resonate. What I see looking out is this blonde, buxom girl. Thank you.